Hi, this is the Lone Wolf and Pack Show right here on Witchcraft TV. And if you didn't know any better, or if you didn't know, or you need to know on a need to know basis, it's www.witchcrafttv.online. And we're glad to have you. And we're doing great and doing great things for the community for a 100% free Pagan television station. But for now, we're broadcasting from Louisville, Kentucky. And over in Kansas, I think Wichita, we have Monastera. Monastera, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. We got rid of the rain, and I heard it's over your way today.
I don't mind the rain, but it is kind of dreary here this weekend. And I really glad that we're here spitting and talking. And we're going to be talking to a pagan musician. Is that right?
Yes, she is a wonderful musician. She plays a whistle, and it's Teapot Pankhurst, if I pronounce it correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, Pankhurst is fine. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Welcome to the Lone Wolf Show and Pack Show, Witchcraft TV. Glad to have you on. How long have you been pagan? How long have you been playing music as a pagan? Is it go hand in hand? Is that the thing?
Okay. Yep, that's a bit of a story. Actually, first of all, I guess my spiritual path really started just before I moved to the United States. I was more on a sort of left-hand path kind of thing. Both me and my husband, we met through the Satanic Temple. I'm sure you know who they are. But I kind of drifted away from left-hand path and just kind of like left it like in the air for a while, and I didn't really do much with spiritual stuff for a while. And then in 2020, I really just started to feel insanely homesick, and decided that I wanted to kind of do something in my life that was going to bring some of my culture over to the United States. And also at the time, me and my husband, we were getting evicted from our apartment, and we were about to be moving into an RV. And at the time, I was a huge gamer, and I really needed some hobbies that didn't involve any electricity, or, because I knew that that's what we were going to end up with, no electricity and all of that. So I decided in 2020 to spend $10 on a tin whistle, and then just started like playing music. And then I got on TikTok, and then I kind of got quite popular on there. And I really started just originally just doing traditional music, usually from Ireland and Scotland, and a little bit from England. They're all quite interconnected anyway. So I was doing quite a lot of trad, but I never really felt like I fitted in. And then really just last year, it was about 18 months ago, I really started to look into sort of the pagan roots of where I'm from and all of that. And then it really felt like the missing puzzle piece that brought a lot of things together. And all of a sudden, I just sort of like took off more with music and started still like incorporating traditional stuff, in traditional styles. But we're creating my own like reels and jigs and hornpipes, along with using pagan lyrics. And actually, a lot of my practice and my deity work really is creative stuff. So most of what I do is reverence for my deities.
Now, do you think picking up the whistles helped you connect with that pagan side and lead you there?
You know what? I think it all really, yeah, I think some of that definitely. And then I'm also quite heavily into like mutual aid and activism and stuff like that. So I just reckon it just all sort of came together in that sort of way. So yeah, I would say so. I think that the music, the Irish and Scottish and some English traditional folk stuff, it all comes from the roots of that, so it's really quite easy to sort of connect it together. And if you look at like a lot of the older songs as well, you can see it, you can really see it. Even the ones that have quite Christianized lyrics these days, a lot of the time the lyrics have been changed over the years, things have gone from major to minor, and there's lots of different variations of songs as well.
Have you played your flute at any festivals? Have you tried that yet? Like performing?
So Okay, so at the beginning of this year, I really started to sort of dip my toes into playing live. It is kind of difficult because no matter how much I've tried to find people around here to play with, I've found it quite difficult. So I knew that with the kind of things that I wanted to play, it's also kind of difficult because the whistles that I use only play one scale. They'll play a major scale. So you really, when you rock up at drum circles, you kind of have to take that into consideration. And also each whistle has its own key. So it's not just something that fits into like every single piece of music. They're usually only really played with traditional songs, which mostly are in that kind of in one scale. But yeah, I did decide that I was going to start making my own tracks. So when I started to do that, I did look into doing some performances, and I'm trying to think like where it really started. Oh yeah, I got asked to do Beltane with Sin City Witches. So yeah, that was like probably the first performance I'd done live. And then I did a summer solstice as well at Container Park here in Las Vegas. I did the summer solstice festival there. And then I did the Samhain soiree here in town. I've also done quite a lot of online stuff like conferences and stuff like that. So I did. I was brought on to be the solar punk musician for the solar punk conference at the beginning of this year, which is really cool. And then next week I will be playing Sin City Witches Witchmas Party, which is at the Space this year. But definitely, if you want to know more about that, definitely check that out on the Sin City Witches website.
Yeah, I think that's how I ran into you, is through the Sin City Witches.
Yeah, probably, yeah, because they're very community-based people. I love everything that they do, and they, it's really strange because I guess like a lot of people when they think of Las Vegas, they think of the Strip. I mean, when I moved here, I didn't ever expect there to be this kind of occult scene, and it wasn't something I was technically looking for. I mean, like we did not plan to be here as long as we had been here. We seriously a few days, and just somehow everything sort of fell into place. And if there's one thing I can say about Las Vegas, it's got very shape-shifting energy. It will change you, and you'll see it. I've never seen a place that changes so much. But yeah, there is a lot of like occult people here. Just great people, great vibes. A lot of community. So yeah, it's just not all about the Strip. There is a lot more, and a lot of people are moving here. A lot of people are moving here, which is also very refreshing as well.
Yes. So what brought you to the US?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a story as well. So I was at the time I was living in Plymouth. Like when you look back at things and you're like, gosh, I wish I'd taken advantage of this. I can't believe that I lived less than an hour away from that witchcraft museum in Cornwall that everyone talks about, that everyone wants to go to, and I never went. But anyway,
That just means you have to go back.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm not from Plymouth. I'm from an area called Newbury, which is about maybe an hour and a half from London. Closest city is Reading. But anyway, at the time I was living in Plymouth, I really didn't have a lot going on. And I started speaking. Like I said, I met my husband through Left Hand Path connections. We had a ton of mutuals and all of that. So we just started talking, and then I guess just after the election, when all of that weird stuff was happening with, are they letting people in the country? Are they not? That kind of thing. We just sort of jumped on it and was like, let's just get you over here. And I just stayed. Honestly, that's it. And we got married, and that's just kind of it, really. So yeah, and now we're kind of just now we're living in we're travelers. We travel around, and that part of our life has been really awesome. Like we stayed in Dallas for like three or 4 years, and like I said, we got evicted, and then we started traveling, and that's just been amazing. So yeah, there are a lot of things I do love about the US. I don't want to be a citizen. The UK will always be my home, and at some point I will go back, but I do not feel like I'm being called back yet.
So where's the next place you want to go check out in the US?
Oh, you know what? Probably if we have to stay here for a while, because like I said, my husband's not been very well. So he had a sudden cardiac arrest in October.
Oh, no.
It was really, really out of nowhere. He had it was just, we were here at the trailer and he just fell to the floor, and he actually died 7 times in October.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was been very, very sick. But he has made a really good recovery. It's like really strange because they in the hospital they were kind of calling it a bit of a miracle. He's like one of the first people they've ever had that's gone from the ICU straight home. Like that's how well his recovery's been. But they want to run like a ton of tests on him to find out why this happened because they don't know. So we're probably going to be here another summer, which I really didn't want to be just because I do struggle with the heat. And that's the only thing. But probably on our next sort of journey, if I could choose where we go, I would really like to be somewhere where it's a little bit less car-centric and spaced out. But we never really have a plan. So, you know, honestly, a lot of the time we just wing it. So I couldn't tell you. I mean, Oregon looks nice, you know. I think maybe that, you know, it really depends where's traveler friendly these days, where we could put an RV, that thing, what comes in our direction, you know.
Yeah.
So what's a penny whistle look like?
Okay, so I have some examples. So just in the background, penny whistle and tin whistle are the same thing. I know I always get this, like, what's the difference? They are the same thing. The reason they're called a tin whistle is because they used to be made out of tin. And the reason called a penny whistle is because they used to be sold for a penny. I believe I'm right on that. Now, what is interesting about is that they are actually originally from England. I know a lot of people call them the Irish penny whistle, but they actually were originally in England first, but they were used, I think, towards a different kind of music style than what we hear in Irish traditional music, stuff like reels and jigs. So they kind of looked like this at the beginning. This is like an E, so they were very, very small. This one's actually made out of PVC, but the traditional ones were made out of tin. But this is what you would call a high whistle, because they now make several variations of this. Now, they're not the same as the Irish flute. The Irish flute you play on the side like a regular flute. So these are still whistles, although honestly, I do just prefer to call them magic flutes. So that's kind of, but yeah, I'll give you like a demonstration of what a high whistle sounds like. If I miss some of these notes, it's because I don't play high whistles very often. For several reasons, and one of them is my cat really hates them. So what is where, because the finger difference is so much that like my fingers are so used to being further apart. So I'll give it a go. And that's probably the highest. I mean, you can get, so this is an E. You can get a G and you can get an F, but yeah, it's bad. Anything higher than that key wise, but traditionally, usually it's a D. I don't actually have a D with me today, but that's kind of just like the smaller size ones you get. And then the ones that I really enjoy playing the most are the alto whistles, ones that are kind of in between. So you'll get keys like this will be like an A, and then a B flat will be an alto whistle as well. Anything sort of down to like, I mean, technically, I guess it's B. You can get them, but yeah, they're sort of like in the middle. Now, my favorite style, really, for me, now this varies from person to person. So, you know, you'll hear a bunch of people who play these say different things, but I do prefer to have a PVC mouthpiece and an aluminum body. I like the aluminum bodies because they give off like a really nice tone. But PVC mouthpiece is better than an aluminum mouthpiece because aluminum clogs all of the time. So you really have to warm the whistles up. Condensation is a huge problem, even though they do technically sound like beautiful. Condensation's a big problem. I used to exclusively play Kerry whistles. So this is one with a aluminum mouthpiece. And this one does all right, but if you go any bigger than this, like you'll end up with condensation issues. And some people seem to be all right with it. It annoys me, so. Yeah. But this one is an alto A. I haven't had this one very long. This is a Tony Dixon, and actually these are very budget friendly. I believe this one may have been under 100. And they usually range from, you can get like a real budget tin whistle from Amazon for about $13. And a lot of people say don't get them. But honestly, there's a place for them, and that place is for learning. And I would always say just like don't even invest in it unless you know you're going to like actually stick with it. And if you can make that sound great, then you can make anything above that sound great. Well, if that makes sense, I just don't understand why people just go straight and buy like a Carbony, which is like $500 off the bat. Like just spend 13. But I mean, most of them range around the price of like 100 to 150. That's kind of like the budget that I think is like a semi-professional whistle, and they are tunable as well. So you can take the top of that, and then depending where you put it, you could slide it like up and down to sort of fine tune it for playing with other people. But yeah, this one's in A. So
So do you ever find yourself writing lyrics with that flute?
sorry, say that one more time.
Do you ever write? Do you write lyrics with the flute, or is it separate?
Yeah, so usually what I do is I will write it really depends. Like sometimes I do like spiritual exercises with them. Like I'll start with just like taking some deep breaths, and I'll just sit there and I'll do some deep breaths, and then like I'll be like, right, well, with this one deep breath, I'm just going to hum out a random tune, right? And I'll just hum it out to myself. And then I'll take another deep breath, and then I'll try and like, fine tune it into something that's a little bit more readable. And then before I know it, I've got some sort of melody going. Now, because I've done a lot of trad music, a lot of what I do kind of really falls into, I mostly go towards like hornpipes, because that's already kind of the timing of those, so it's already in my head. So anyway, I come to a melody, and then what I'll do is I'll find a whistle to play it on, and usually it works out, and then I'll record that, because otherwise I'll forget it. So I'll do a really crappy recording of it, and then I'll try and work on it. And then usually, like the way that traditional music is that you'll have like part 1 and part 2, sometimes a part 3. So I'll do the first part, and then I'll try and do a second part as well. So I'll try and do that, and then if I add lyrics to it, then I'll work around that as well. Adding lyrics is something that I've only been really toying with recently. So because I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm a bad singer. I'm someone who doesn't really, use my vocals that often. So I'm still like practicing singing, getting good at singing. I used to sing a lot when I was at school. In fact, actually, I grew up Protestant, and I was, believe it or not, a top soprano at one point. I can't even believe. I mean, today we were at the UU, and they got these songs on that are so high pitched that I'm like, how did I do that? Like, I don't even know. But yeah, that's kind of just like where it sort of ended with me with the vocals, but I'm starting to pick it back up again now, because I've realised I do actually quite like writing the lyrics. And one of the ones that I really was quite proud of was I did a reverence to Nematonia, who's the goddess of sacred groves. Not much is known about her, but what we do know is that the Druids, obviously we know they didn't really make spaces. They kind of did their rituals out in the woods. They didn't really have altars or anything as much. It was all in groves. And so I kind of wanted to do an offering for her that was something that wasn't going to have an impact on the environment, if that makes sense. So that's a lot of the reason why I've chosen to do musical stuff as offerings as well.
Now, who do you look up to as a musician?
Oh gosh. I haven't really thought about. Okay, so I grew up listening to a lot of folk music through my mum and dad. I've been to a ton of folk festivals in the UK. So I'd probably say, although I've never had the pleasure of seeing Ian Anderson live, I would definitely say Jethro Tull has had a huge influence on my life. And I know that he plays like a conventional classical flute. But yeah, he definitely him. Say a lot of the folk singers around the 1970s. You had bands like Fairport Convention that had Sandy Denny. Anyone who was kind of part of that folk revival that they had in the 70s, where a lot of folk rock bands took these child ballads from a long time ago, and made them into songs and told these stories. Because that's one thing I'm really interested in as well, is telling stories. through music. So yeah, I would say from that era definitely. And then I really love what's sort of coming out of the modern trad scene right now, which is totally unconventional. And there's a lot of bands that are successfully doing it right now, mixing electronic music in with traditional music. There's, for example, a really awesome band from the Outer Hebrides. They're called Face the West. And then there's Project Smoke as well. They do they mix electronic music, usually with penny whistles, and it's amazing. I mean, they're people I look up to. They are very advanced players, and they play a lot faster than I'm ever going to be able to do. And I know that because I'm just not crazy enough to to play that fast. But it's just fascinating. It's just mind-blowingly amazing. So in some of my songs, like on the recent EP that I have done, which is The Face of the Crone, the second song on there is an electronic track. So I do sometimes incorporate electronic music in with my stuff as well. So it's not
you
just
said that album was called The Base of the Crow?
The Face of the Crone.
The Face of the Crone.
Crone, yes. And you can find that it's free to download on my Bandcamp right now. I like to make everything sort of accessible if I can. So it's free to download on Bandcamp. And there's also like I really like Bandcamp. They do that whole pay what you can thing as well. So if you wanted to leave a tip or a donation, that's totally fine as well. But yeah, you can download it just to leave.
What's your spirituality?
Sorry?
What is your spirituality?
Okay, so honestly, I would just say I kind of just call it earth-based spiritualism. You know, most of my practice is very nature-based. A lot of the stuff that I do is outside in nature. And then the deities that I are drawn towards are ones that are sort of more local to where I'm from. So I really love Kanunos, Nematonia, who I mentioned before as well, and Andraste, who I'm just working with now, is another one. But then also like the Kaliak as well. You know, writing this one about the winter crone, I've really felt like a connection of really like I had to do a lot of research about what the crone represents. And that just really brought it to me, you know, this time of year. And I seem to have this kind of like more special feeling about you than I thought I was going to, you know, just from this song that I did.
Monica, you got something? You got a question?
So do you consider yourself a bard?
Okay. No, yes, I do. You know, in fact, actually here in Las Vegas, I do want to get a bardic circle set up because I really want us to have a place where we can really celebrate creativity that's in a non-judgmental space, so nobody feels like they have to get up on stage and, you know, like it's none of that. Like, because I know that performing live, like I really struggle with it. And I don't know if people can pick that up, but I've really had to throw myself out there with live performances. Like I am an extrovert, but it is intimidating being out there. And I did kind of throw myself in at the deep end in some of these situations, you know, performing to people who are not pagans, performing to people, you know, the one I did at Summer Solstice, I remember just like looking at the lineup and I was the only one that wasn't a rapper. And I was like, oh no, like, you know, this is going to be so weird to everyone. And I was so nervous. And that's the thing, I've had to really work on being able to perform and not be like terrified. But I think just having that that middle ground for people to be able to experiment with creativity but not feel like they're in an intimidating space would be a really good thing for this area. So it would be a little bit more, it would be like an open mic night, but it would be in a circular form. So I really want to get that going in Las Vegas. We have been talking about it. It's just, it just seems to be back to back at this time of year. At the moment, you know, you go from Samhain and then you go straight into Yule, and it's just, yeah. So it's probably going to be something that we're going to be working on more towards January. But yeah, that's definitely something that I do consider myself a bard. I I love Dandelion from The Witcher, who to me is just like the bard. So yeah, I would definitely. And then, you know, obviously I love David Bard. You know, he's cool as well. Druidcast is amazing. So.
Now, you are also an artist. I've seen some of your drawings. Tell me a bit more about that.
Oh yes, yeah. So I do. That's the thing. Like, I just call myself Mrs. Creative at the end of the day, because it is. It's just that's my whole thing. I am just the creative, full time, really. And I'm very privileged to have a life where I do have the time to do things like that. And in all fairness, art has been more in my life than music has over the years. Music has kind of been something that I've been exploring with and has really been taken off since 2020. But art has always been there for me. Like, I know how to tattoo. I was a tattoo artist as well. But my husband now does that here in Las Vegas. It's too stressful if we both do it. It's just long hours. So yeah, I've done a bit of that. But yeah, I do at the moment. I'm sort of getting into a little bit of digital art, which I'd never done before, and I honestly just thought it would be just like traditional drawing, and it's absolutely not. And I have so much respect for anybody who is a digital artist, because it's its own game. It really is. But yeah, I do like to experiment. I mean, most of the time I'm doing little things for my altar. Like, I can show you this one right now, because I've got my altar right next to me. It's a good thing about living in a camper. Everything's like, you know, stones throw away. But this one I did, which is Lou's hands holding the altar, and that's on brown paper, but that is just with crayons. So yeah, I love little things for my altar and stuff like that. But yeah, I usually have a music project going, an art project going, and then some sort of textile thing, whether it's like, you know, making hats or making a waistcoat or something, you know, because one of the jobs that I do is I clean a laundrette, so we tend to get a lot of people leaving things and never coming back to them. And I hate throwing things away. You know, a lot of my earth-based spiritual stuff is I really care about waste. And you know, it's hard in this country. It really is. And I'm currently not in a position where I can recycle, but I can do little things like, you know, recycle some of the textiles that get left in the laundry and stuff like that. So
yeah, I understand that. I'm an artist too, and I create all different kinds with different mediums. And I'm just now starting to try my hand at tattooing. My son is an artist, and he's kind of been coaching me a little bit on that. And I did a few on myself, and gonna start trying to do others. But what's your tip on tattooing?
Oh, okay. Honestly, I mean, it really depends. As tips go, honestly, I feel like the industry is really struggling right now, if I'm honest. I feel like we had that bubble of the tattoo shows on the television where everybody went tattoo mad for a while and was getting tattoos. Hang on one second, babe, can you answer the door? Sorry. My door no one ever knocks on my door. But anyway, I would say that that bubble's kind of bursting a little bit at the moment. So, and it seems to be quite an oversaturated market in big cities. I don't know about smaller ones. But yeah, I would say honestly that, like, if you can build up your own clientele, get in with the pagans, you know, because that's it. A lot of people that I meet are like, oh, I just don't know who to go to, and that's the thing. And what I will say out there to just people watching about tattooing, be careful of what you see on Instagram, because just the unrealistic expectations of what people Photoshop is like not what you're going to get a lot of the time. If you were to check, for example, my husband's page, he never Photoshops his work, but a lot of people do. And so it just creates this, like, you know, unrealistic thing. So, but yeah, so, you know, if you're good at drawing, then you'll make a really good tattoo artist, because honestly, there are more bad tattoo artists out there than good. I have to say that. You know, there are more people that are interested in the money side of it than they are in the art. And if you've got a passion for art and you can draw, which you have, then you'll be fine. And people will see that. You can make these connections with people, and, you know, you're already an interviewer. You know, you got people skills. That really helps as well. You know.
Yeah, so I'm love your flutes too, and I have some. My cousin's a flute player. He plays this type, and I have a few of them. But it's just when I heard your flute, when I heard the penny whistle, it's just some. It did something to me. So I would like to pick one up. Maybe I'll get the $14 one from Amazon. Try it out. But I'm definitely going to do that. I appreciate you sharing information on that.
If I could give you, because there will be like several manufacturers that do sell through Amazon, or like, I mean, I think Walmart, you know, sadly, I know that I'm sitting there saying Amazon after I said all this stuff about like, you know, caring about the planet, but sadly, I mean, you're just not going to find a tin whistle in the US at a music shop. You're just not. You know, I mean, we're lucky we have Lark in the Morning in California, but they, in fact, actually, I would check out them Lark in the Morning before you go to Amazon if you can, because I believe they do have some budgets on there, and they do so. I believe the shipping's pretty quick, so I've bought from them a few times. But yeah, I would say definitely if you can get like a Clark's a good one, or a Fee Dog. They're both budget ones. But another one that I wanted to show you guys actually is this one, and I got this one quite recently, and I know it's very big in comparison to the other ones. I got this one for my birthday this year, and this one is called a Nightingale. That's the make of it. It is made by a guy in Russia who it's really hard to get them right now because of the war, and it took a long time to find this one, so I'm not sure if they are around much anymore. But this is honestly my favorite one, and it just gives off that kind of low tone. So I'm going to try and do it so I can get the whole one in. But and this one's in an E, so you can get them bigger than this, but you'll find on the bottom hand, especially if you're like me and you've got insanely tiny hands. If I could change anything about myself, it would be the size of my hands, because it'd be so much easier to play these bigger ones. But you have to do something called the piper's grip, which actually has nothing to do with piping or bagpipes. In fact, most people play bagpipes are like, I would never hold my pipes like that. I don't even know why it's called that. You have to kind of move your fingers. So I'm going to show you in a direction that's a bit like that to fit your fingers all over the holes. More with the sort of real padded area, almost to your knuckles, to try and get to those lower notes. And if you were to, so this is a E. If you were to get a D, it would be a bigger stretch, and then you can get a C. I haven't got a C because I just know I wouldn't be able to make the stretch.
Yeah. I got smaller hands too, and I find it difficult with, you know, playing chords on the guitar. It's very difficult, so I'm going to start learning the bass.
Yeah, I feel you with the guitar thing as well. Like, I mean, that F chord, you're like, no, like, it's just, like, as far as like, no, I'm done, you know.
So I like to pluck, so I'm gonna actually some guitar manufacturer and someone that restores is starting a business, and he's going to create me a guitar, so I'm excited.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh wow, is that an acoustic then you're gonna get?
He does electric guitars, but he's going to put something special in it, and it can switch to be like an acoustic also.
Oh yeah, that's what you want. Yeah, I have an electric acoustic. Yeah,
so I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm patiently waiting. We're in the planning stages right now.
Anyone that makes musical instruments, you know, it's just they have to be so passionate about it. Like all the ones I've shown you today are handmade, and they all come from, I believe the guy who makes this one, he doesn't do them anymore, but he actually was in Missouri. But yeah, he's very passionate about it. So I got and then this one is a Kerry whistle, like I said earlier, and this is made by a guy called Phil Hardy in the UK. It's actually called a busker because this model is what buskers in the UK use, because you can busk more in the UK than you can here. I feel like the laws around it here are just so backwards, you know, and just it annoys me so much. But
yeah, the laws are different everywhere for busking. Some places are cool and some places not, huh, Harold?
gosh, yeah, no, here in Vegas it's ridiculous. It really is. I mean, like they've given us a little space. If you've been to Vegas, and you've probably been to Fremont Experience, where they've got those circles, and they say
Oh, yeah.
that's where we've all got to busk. Well, if you've been down there, then you'll know that you would be competing with like 40 different sound systems, and it's also got, it's pretty dodgy these days. It's definitely not the sort of environment that I would want to do. I have dipped my toes in a bit of busking in the arts district on a day I think I can get away with it. But yeah, you're really like supposed to only be in those circles. Now they do have them on the strip, on the bridges, because they're a different law than the streets. But they're now trying to make a law to stop people doing it by saying that you can't stand on the bridge for a certain amount of time. And they're saying it's to do with traffic control, but it's really to just get rid of buskers. You know, I just think, where have we gone as a society where, like, you know, we can't just play in the street, you know, and enjoy music, you know? But I can go down this rabbit hole, you know, of talking. I'm very passionate about things like this, so it's the activist in me.
You're on mute, Harold.
Is there anything you would like to say to people that follow you on Instagram, TikTok, social media?
Yes. Just honestly, like, if you've got something that you've always wanted to do, you know, and you've got in the back of your mind that, like, you know, and you're worried about what other people are going to say, and you just think, oh, people are going to think I'm stupid. People are just going to think, you know, oh, well, that's really not like them, or, you know, something like that, you know, just do it. Just absolutely do it. Because I honestly never thought that this was, like, you know, just from buying that tin whistle so long ago, you know, 3 years ago, I never thought that I would be here doing any of this right now, and just how many doors have been opened and how much things unfolded. It was all from taking a risk and trying something out. So I guess, like, you know, F around and find out. It's definitely something that I live by. And it's just not really care what anybody thinks, you know, like, we really all need to be individuals in this world, and you know, we can't let creativity die, you know, we just can't. And I'd love to see more people get creative, especially with their craft practices, you know, and doing things in an unconventional style. You know, that's a lot of the reason why I really like Starhawk's stuff, because, you know, a lot of her ritual stuff is quite theatrical, and it's still very earth-based. It's not ceremonial, but it's got that theatrical, like, play side to it, which is what I just love about ritual, you know. So yeah, I would say definitely just get yourself out there, because you just don't know, you know. And also the other thing is that, you know, when you're doing creative projects, and it's really, really hard, because we're kind of living in this world where everything's recorded, everything's monitored, you know, that kind of thing. I'm not trying to sound paranoid. It's just like, you know, we've got our phones with us all the time, and when we think of a creative project, we're almost automatically going to, oh, I can put that on the internet, you know, or, oh, I can make these and I can sell them. Get rid of that step, right? And do the creative stuff for you first. You know, that's what I would say. Do the creative stuff for you, and then think about the other thing. Just trust me, like, you know, I think, honestly, for me, you know, I would rather play a drum circle full of, like, you know, all these cool vibes, and, like, people that are, like, really down to earth and just, like, you know, having a good time, than to maybe, like, get, I don't know, a residency on the street or something, you know. Like, for me, my path is more about, like, community and including everyone in that, and just bringing forward parts of me that are inside, how I see the world, and also the stories from the past, that, you know, that I want to bring forward. Some of my culture from where I'm from. You know, that a lot of people feel so disconnected, especially, you know, us that are white, feel very disconnected right now. And, you know, there are some real cool cultural things where I'm from, and I just would love to share that with people. So it's kind of a lot of the reason I do.
So what's your plan for sharing it more? Are you going to just do it on the stage in your music, or are you going to maybe do a podcast? What do you think would be a great way to get the information out?
There's a few things that I'm toying with. I don't really want to say too much. But obviously, like I've spoken about the Bardic Circle, that's something that, you know, I have been trying to get people into and involved in. And so far, like, you know, a lot of people are like, yes, we'll totally go if you do it. So, you know, there's a group of us that are sort of thinking of when we're going to put that together. Yeah, I think music, honestly, I think after my performance on at the Witchmas party on Thursday, I'm probably going to be taking a break till Beltane. Just because I have just been through so much with my husband being sick, and then just, I mean, I had 2 performances in October after he'd been in intensive care, and I still went and did them, and I really just haven't had a break this entire time. And so I will probably be going into my own little like Yule, you know, drawn inwards kind of attitude of just staying in a little bit, because not too much.
Hibernating.
Yeah, the thing is, you don't want to do it too much, because we here in Vegas, you know, we also do hibernate for like 2 months of the year as well in the summer, because it's too hot to do anything.
Yeah.
So you kind of, it's like, it's hot, you know, it's that line of like, you know, making sure that you're also making the most of the fact that it's lovely weather. So definitely like want to work on more music stuff. I want to start doing covers of very old folk tales as well. There are a few covers that I want to do. But as far as, I mean, there's just a few ideas that I've bantered around. There's also as far as like, 'cause like I said, I like to involve activism in with my practice as well. Going to be doing monthly trash cleanups, because quite a lot of what I do as well is I help out a lot of mutual aid and grassroots organisations here. Usually they are Indigenous led. So I've actually been doing that longer than I've been Pagan. I've actually done that the whole time I've been in Las Vegas. Been involved in like community gardens and stuff like that. And one of the things that I want to do is just start getting, like, we just did one, but get like a monthly trash cleanup going, you know, and invite people from the witchcraft community to come and get involved in stuff like that. And we'll always try and do some sort of fundraising for a grassroots organization here.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I really feel also we need to get back to focusing on healing and protecting Mother Earth and the animals. So, yeah.
Yes, I totally
you are doing that.
agree. Yeah, and that's honestly why I just, out of everyone, all the authors and all that, Starhawk really has just stuck out for me, for her continued work in activism. Has just been so inspiring to me. The Earth Path, if anybody wants to like really work on putting activism and an earth-based spiritual path together, especially if you live in a city and you're not very sure on how you could, what you can do in a city as far as like working with nature, I would definitely recommend The Earth Path by Starhawk. Definitely.
Well, thank you. And we have the information of how to contact you scrolling on the bottom: Instagram and TikTok, Musical Teapot, Bandcamp, musicalteapot.bandcamp.com, and the email, the musicalteapot@hotmail.com.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had a really good time talking.
You're welcome. It is a pleasure. Yes. Thank you for hanging out with us, and it's great to get to know you.
Thank you
Make sure
so
you guys
much.
keep it right here on www.witchcrafttv.online. This is the Lone Wolf Show. I'm the Lone Wolf, and my co-host, Monastery Monica from Kansas, and my lovely wife, Patricia. Thank you so much for coming on, Teapot. Rock on. I hope to hear some better music. I hope to see some more music in the feeds. If I see you, I'll be clicking. And for our viewers, y'all be clicking too. Happy Yule, everybody.
Thank you.
I'll see.